The Athletor Podcast. We're back again. Zac Dominguez joins us this time. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. I appreciate being here. Thanks for having me.
So, it's funny, man. Joel and I have, it was actually his idea. He's like, dude, we got to talk to more of these guys that are starting the PNL. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. And so we heard from Jared Lawrence last week. And it seems as though it was kind of him and Askren's kind of brainchild. Is that about right?
Yep, that's correct. Absolutely. Okay. That's correct.
So how do they, at what point do you say, ooh, that's interesting, I want to be a part of that?
So I believe there was, and I spoke a little bit of this, the video, which I'll upload for you, but I spoke a little bit about it when it came to the first 6, right? So I wasn't a part of the actual original 6. I would love to say that they thought of me in such a good way that this was going to be possible, but I did get in as the original, and now known as the original 8. Daniel, Izzy, Max, Ben, Jared, Brandon, Eric, Mike,
David Taylor, he's pretty good.
Right,
too.
David. Yeah, well, David and I came out at the same time, so I just want to
point
out.
Right?
Okay. I came on as 7. David came on as 8. Just want to make sure.
Just so we're clear. The world Olympic champion.
Yeah.
Behind me. Just
right one thing. Just one thing. That's all I'm saying. Obviously, David's amazing, and then Jody Schrittmatter as well. What really struck me was I get to go to places with coaches that I like, and I get to be a part of learning. Right, and even if my kid gets his butt kicked or my kid kicks another kid's butt, it's still equal. We're still learning from each other. Our value is the same to each other, because I spent a lot of, actually, me and Max Askren have a very good bond when it comes to like coaching. We love talking. We're like, he goes, hey, Zac, show me how you get out of the 2-on-1 or how you get us underhook. I'm like, sweet, because you're going to have to show me how come my kid keeps going to his back every time he shoots when he shoots on one of your kids. And it works out really good that way. And that's the point, right? We bring value to each other. Those original 8, we bring a lot of value, and we love working with each other. We're not trying to hide stuff. We're not trying to.
That's exactly what
get a win over, right?
Jared said, it's funny. He's like, between Zac Dominguez and Brandon Paulson, we have like some of the best underhook guys in the country, and they're an open book. They're an open
Absolutely.
book.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, nice.
I love it. And everybody's, you know what, with Eric Larkin and Jared Lawrence as shooters, right? Jody Schrittmatter is a shooter. Everybody's a shooter. I love talking to them because I'm not a great shooter, but I do understand we have to shoot from a tie. So I'll ask. Yeah. And you know what? It happens, right? It happens naturally. It's very organic. We don't have to fight each other on stuff. We don't argue with each other. Matter of fact, I remember the last time we were all together in PA with Jody's tournament out there, what we went to. My kids were winning, but I go, hey, the score's wrong. We got to do it right. Do it right. Here's how it is. Now, boys, I told my boys, I go, you're not winning because I'm going to try to cheat these guys, because I'm not going to cheat them. No. I'm going to try to do it right. And this is what this group is talking about, right? Doing it right.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, bro.
We have a good understanding.
I have a really funny story. Joel, you'll like this too. Because this doesn't happen as much in like California. Jared Lawrence and I were at a journeyman event a couple years back, and his kid is wrestling, and I'm there with a camera. Okay. And it's Jared Lawrence, and the kid's dad is in the corner. He's not saying a word. The kid's dad is not being an obnoxious dad. He's just happens to be in the corner at the same time. He's probably filming on his iPad or something like that. Well, it's a folk style match. Okay. Jared Lawrence, the Pinnacle kid, is up by 1 point. Okay. And they go out of bounds. Jared's kid is on top. Okay, they go out of bounds. There's about, let's call it 30 seconds left, 45 seconds left, maybe even a minute left. Doesn't really matter. Let's call it a minute left in the third period. Jared Lawrence's kid is up by a point. They go out of bounds, and the girl at the table doesn't stop the clock. Okay. So they're walking back to the center, and the referee doesn't notice it at all, and the girl's completely oblivious. And so the dad of the kid starts going, the clock is still moving. The clock is still moving. And Jared looks at him like, do you have to be Minnesota nice all the time? Really?
All the time. Yep.
Yeah, you got to be Minnesota nice all the time. Really? Dang. All right, fine. The clock was moving. It was at 102 when we went out of bounds. And sure enough, but that's the kind of human beings that I would, again, I hope I don't overstep my bounds, but that it seems as though the P&L wants as part of their programs.
Absolutely. Right. That's what we're chasing down, right? It's easier for our kids to get better when the environment is less stressful. If we're growing our athletes, no matter who they are, whether their best potential is sixth place at their state tournament in high school, or if their potential is world champion, the stress that happens to a young one, meaning anything under high school, in my opinion, is a young one. Why not do it right? Why not give them the opportunity to be just a little bit better all the time? And that's what these coaches represent, right? We're all doing that with each other, right? As much as Ben loves Greco, he still appreciates it no matter what, right? Just like I appreciate what he does. And there's no arguments. We're all going the same direction.
So, all right. So you brought it up. Paulson and you are the Greco guys. The rest of them are all leg grabbers. How's that dynamic work?
It's good, man.
In the P&L.
Oh man, it's a fun fight, right? I don't mind. It's always going to be that way. I don't mind having to argue my point every now and then. And Brandon, believe it or not, I always give Brandon a hard time. I'm like, Brandon, you got a lot of freestyle world medals right here. Show me your Greco world medals. Shut up, Zach. Right? We always have our own little fight, right?
Yeah.
And obviously he does. He's amazing at what he came through. Obviously, silver medal in the Olympics. You name it, right? He was
pretty good.
Superstar, right? What a big jerk. But unfortunately or fortunately, the group that we're involved with is a leg grabbing society. But our society is not saying no. We just want to grow, so then we can possibly add a Greco component as we move forward. And everybody's open to that idea.
Sure.
Whether it happens now or a year or 2 years from now, we are all on the same page. That's what we want to do. We want to create the best coaching strategies, coaching environments, kid wrestling. And again, I revert back to 18 and U as kids. I know it sounds
no. Yeah.
But that's
okay though. Like,
yeah.
Let's call it what it is, dude. They're children.
Yeah. They're children. Yep. And
because I'm 45 and I'm still a child.
It's okay. I'm 45, same problem. Joel looks like he's 12, but it's cool. Sorry, Joel, I just had to throw one in on you.
No,
you can't see my hairline, so I'll take it.
That's fair.
I got really good hair. I got dad with long black hair. When Mike sees my dad, he's like, "Is that your brother?" You actually said that, Mike. Is that your brother? Or is that your dad? I go, "Yeah, that's my dad." Holy buckets, man! What kind of hair does this guy got? I go, he's got all of it. So it's good. But Brent and I have talked extensively about adding Greco into this scenario within 3 years, right? As we grow, we get better. And there are, in our expansion of teams after the top 8, Kyler Sanderson likes Greco, Dylan Carew likes Greco. So
John
we do
Myers,
have John. Yep. We have Greco guys. So we're going to start thinking, how do we make this right for everyone? And how does it work right for everyone? And that's essentially what's going to come down to.
So let me ask you something, man. You said so. For those of you that don't know, I'm helping out with some marketing stuff with the P&L. You said something really interesting to me on that video that we did. You said when you moved back to Nebraska, priority number 1 was to change or to, I don't know if you used the word improve, but let's say change the culture.
Yep.
That's not easy, Zac Dominguez.
No, it's not.
How do you do that? Where do you start? Let's start there. Where do you start to change the dynamics of the culture in a in a state like a Nebraska?
Absolutely. I will lay this out step by step for you.
Okay.
Not that I've changed it, but I do believe it's getting better. Okay.
Okay.
Number one, when I came back to Nebraska, I coached at UNO in 2007 to 2011 with Mike Denny. And if anybody knows Mike Denny, they know that man. That man's buried like a redwood. His roots are deep. He's strong. He's his level of coaching and coaches that he has coached that are now coaching is as deep as Dan Gable. And I'll be honest with you, that's where it's at. Not that they've done what Dan Gable did or what Dan's coaches did and so on and so forth, but he has produced and to be honest with you, if he wasn't getting ready to retire, he'd still probably be producing those kinds of coaches. So when I started coaching at UNO, he approached me and said, "Hey, Zac, we don't necessarily, and this is funny, we don't necessarily want you to coach folk style. We want you to help us bring along freestyle and Greco." So I was brought on at the moment as an RTC coach way back in 2007 for a Division II school because Mike Denny understood that. Now, RTCs they're running wild right now in a good way. They're amazing. But Mike was a little bit ahead of the game. He was at the same time, and he wanted just to grow Division II, and his own side of it very well.
Of course.
So, which is okay, which is what every coach should do. So I started digging in and doing my job, and I like coaching freestyle and Greco. Folk style is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to knock anything of our sports. If I had to choose freestyle or Greco first, I would choose those two styles first before I choose folk style. But as I started coaching that, and I came back, because when I came back, I was still in Iowa in 2007. I coached from 1998 to 2010 in Iowa as the freestyle Greco. As the Greco. I was on the support side for freestyle, but as Greco head coach from 2006 and forward, and then, not 2006, 2004 and forward, and then 98 to 4. As the assistant coach to Jason Christensen out of Southeast Polk. And Mark Rollin was one of my other mentors at the time. It's still always going to be a mentor when I was in Iowa. But I asked Mike, I go, Mike, I want to make the move back. It's less traveling. I've started a family. Can I run practices out of here? Can I start doing this? And of course he says, sure. So we started running MWC practices, which at the time stood for Maverick Wrestling Club under Mike Denny. Yep. And I had my brother Esai, the head coach at University of Nebraska Kearney, Dalton Jensen, who were all won several titles for the club. And then prior to that moment, though, I was with Keith Massey at the building where Trenton Travis Paulson came from. I was Trenton Travis's assistant coach, if you will, since they were sixth graders. Right? Thomas Gilman is from the building in Underwood, Iowa. I was Thomas Gilman's first coach.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Which is, by no means am I saying what I did with him as a first coach was saying that he is now because of me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I love wrestling, and in Iowa they love wrestling, and they've literally, I've been given so many amazing things out of that building in Iowa with Keith Massey. Whether it starts with Thomas Gilman, it goes back to Trenton Travis Paulson, David Kilgard, and I were workout partners at the building, right? I had to wait till he left to actually be king of the room because I started wrestling for Keith in 1992. Holy buckets, man, that was a fight, right? All that jazz, right? All things being equal, I really enjoyed coaching from 1998 to 2010 in Iowa. But I understood if you want to coach, you have to start creating the love of the sport. And that was the culture that was missing, I believe, in Nebraska. So when UNO got dropped in 2011, I started the club, MWC, which is now just called My Wrestling Club because ownership is 9/10 of the law and the kids love that. So it's their wrestling club. But I took the Maverick ideology and moved it into this club. And I just wanted to show them that you guys are all capable. You just have to put in one more day, right? And one more day, and then one more day. All of a sudden, we're having All-Americans. Then we're having national champions again. We're having things that remind us of how good we were in the 90s because we did have some really great wrestlers back in the day via Brad Varing, myself when I wrestled for Nebraska, Zach Stalder, Todd Manili, the Perkins brothers. There were moments in time that there was some amazing wrestling. But what had happened was everybody just they lost their way. Just thought competition was the only thing to do, and that if I just show up, I can get a medal. Everything is great, which is awesome. But I really tried to reinstill practice comes first. Then we go to tournaments. Then things will start happening, which has happened quite a bit. And there's good coaches now in the state of Nebraska, but outside of me, that are doing the exact same thing, that are understanding that this is what's important, and they're reestablishing that culture, right? And parents are buying in, coaches are buying in, kids are buying in. They're finding a coach. They're feeling good about where they're at, whether they're going to be a NAIA national champion or a D1 national champion. They're buying into the fact that, hey, I can be a wrestler long term, and I'm not. It's not me trying to trick you into thinking if you wrestle 4 or 5 more days, you're going to be a state champ, and then all of a sudden it's going to work, right?
All right, okay, all right. So, but that's fine. But you're making it sound like it's easy. And what you did, and it's nice because I can look at it from afar, both from when I was in Jersey, when I was in Texas, and now when I'm on the West Coast. I can look at what you have done in the Omaha area, okay, and I can point to it and say, oh, okay, he's changed the culture for sure, okay. So it's not easy. What was the biggest hurdle that you had when you had to revamp a lot of this thought process and this culture?
Wrestling wasn't a 4-month sport. I remember, so I can absolutely tell you, I remember telling the club that I joined up with, I go, hey, can I do the preseason and the postseason? And they're like, yeah, because nobody's going to do it, you dummy. There's no such thing. And I'm like, okay, just give me an opportunity. Just give me a little bit. I remember my first preseason in 2011, started August 2011, because we lost the program in May of 2011. And August was the first year, that coming August in 2011 would have been the first preseason I ran. I had 7 kids. I had 7. It was awesome. It was 7. Everybody's like, Zach, are you sure you want to do this? I go, yep. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know exactly what I want. And then freestyle went with that after we went through proper folk style season, we came around to freestyle Greco season starting in March. I had 20 kids. And then everybody was like, oh, maybe. And then we show up to the state wrestling tournament, and these boys, because all they really did was show up to practice. They didn't have to do a whole lot because everybody else just showed up to tournaments. So those guys weren't practicing at the time, right? Those the kids that were very good, just like, I'm gonna go win a state freestyle Greco, and I'm just not gonna go to practice, which it happens in a lot of states. Then
I don't think it happens as much anymore, dude. Even in like places where it's not huge, right? Like
that's fair. That's fair.
You really can't. I mean,
yeah.
You know, it's funny. I think we talked about it last podcast. I remember going to Fargo with a bunch of athletes, and if we got somebody from Nevada, we were fired up, right? Like that's a round off. Well, guess what? Yep. Chase Pammy put the kibosh on that. Right?
Absolutely, right?
Chase Pammy's like, nah, no, you guys got to wrestle us now. Dang, gone it. You know?
Got it. Yeah, right. Who did that, right? Thank you. That was the thing. That was a predictor. And then all of a sudden, that 20 jumped to 40. 40 jumped to it went to a really big year. 40 went to like 100. And then at that point, the rest of the state was like, we really should just start paying attention and start, in a good way. We can do this too. Everybody's capable of doing it. Zach's not doing anything different. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just teaching a gut wrench, or I'm teaching a single finish, right? Everybody can do that. And then at that point, the state started going, you know what? I think we should start moving that direction. And then as we did, about 2015, 2016, we started having, 10 or 11 All-Americans in Fargo. We started having national champions on a reoccurring basis. We were finishing in the top 4 or 5 at that moment. And then we, of course, all those boys graduated, and then we went down, but we came back up, but we've never been outside of where we're supposed to be outside of. I remember we finished at the national duels in freestyle and Greco in the top 7 I can't remember the year. And then again in top 7 in Greco the following year. But we had that buy-in, right? And everybody was moving that direction, and they still are. And then moving. Here we are today, this day. We have multiple world team members coming out of our state. Joel Adams was a world champion 2 years ago. Hudson Loges was a world team member this year. Isaac Trumbull is now a U23 world team member, and he's number 3 in 97 kilos in freestyle. Camden Russell is on 55 kilo Greco team. That group is still producing, right? And our younger kids are still producing. They're moving that direction. So that's how I believe the culture has changed, right? Everybody figured it out and go, it's not that hard. If I just expand season and expand it a little bit more, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? We get third instead of second.
Sure.
Right.
Sure,
You know what I mean? And the state of Nebraska is moving that way. And I got the opportunity to have a great conversation with Brad Varing out in Colorado at World Team Trials in April. And Brad's like, hey, man, if I was back home in Nebraska, we would be together all day long because I love what you're doing. And I miss Brad because Brad and I grew up together in Nebraska. And then we wrestled at the Olympic Training Center together. We were training partners, obviously, Brad being a world silver medalist, NCAA champion, superstar, rock star kid. But he and I were good friends. We both loved and hated the fact that I could maybe score on him and he could score on me. But in the end, Brad was the silver and obviously NCAA champ, who is superstar from our state, which is what I look at a lot of times because I go, we can do this, right? Brad's from a small town, Class D school where they played like 6-man football. Like it's crazy. And maybe he played it, and maybe I can't remember if he did or not, but he understood what he wanted and he went and got it, which is what Nebraska has, passionate people, because we have only Husker football. I think, it is what it is. But they're passionate. And I think that's what we have. We're passionate. We can go get it.
There you go.
One of the things that you mentioned about building and changing culture was creating a love for the sport of wrestling. And obviously you kind of detailed here how that process went from, 2011 getting started from just 7 kids getting all, to 20 by the springtime. What are some tactics or, things that somebody who is in a similar stage that you are, that's kind of early on in the stages of building their program, how do you create that love for the sport?
So to me, the most important thing to relay to any kid that you're starting with, I don't care if you win or lose. Are you showing up? And I have told numerous kids since they're little, I don't care if you don't win until you're a senior in college, even if you're not with me. I don't care. I need you to show up. Because if you don't show up, my room will be something without you. And if you're not there, I'm missing something. So to me, the most important thing was to get kids to show up, get parents to make sure their sons or daughters show up to practice. Because no matter what, my room will be better because you're in there.
Sure.
Right. And that's just how it is. And once they understood that and everybody's kept showing up, the room started building itself. They create their own tiers. Everybody knows, right, in any room, who the best kid is, who the next kid is, who this is, right? And that's not a problem, but that's what's supposed to happen. We shouldn't be telling people where they're supposed to be. They should be creating that on their own. And once they've created their own path, they have a love for what they're doing, right? They're following their own path. Whether their path is 6th place or, Olympic champ, doesn't matter. They are following their own path, and they love that. And if their path leads them out of wrestling and into the world of being a doctor or a lawyer or I don't care, right? A civil engineer, whatever you want to name it, they're following it but then guess what? Now we have fans of the sport that aren't still wrestlers because they didn't hate what they did. They didn't get thrown out, right? They didn't get beat up, which when I grew up, I get it, right? Mike, you and I are the same age. All right, who's the toughest guy in the room? Let's go get it, right? Right? A lot of that, right? And I get that. But that's my job as a coach, to protect the ones that need protecting at that moment, and then help them grow, let them flourish a little bit, right? And be on their side and let the winners win, right? I get it. The winners will win. And you know what? It's not even losers will lose. It's losers will get better, winners will win and losers will get better. And when they get better, they have their own path.
Yeah.
And they love what they do. If they're following their path and nobody's telling them no, holy buckets, watch out.
Yeah.
I have 8 group texts with 30 guys on them each from graduating years that I still keep. I still contact with them. I ask them how life is going, what are they doing. I mean, we have firemen, we have kids that are firemen, police officers, we have kids that are bankers, we have kids that are working for Fortune 500 companies, and they're amazing, right? They're all doing what they want to do, and I hope as a coach, all I did was start them and create that path with them, right? Because that's our logo at USA Wrestling, right? The what is it? The Olympic path starts here, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So for me, it's, well, your path in life starts here, right? Whether it's still with wrestling doesn't really matter. It's just you won't hate wrestling when you're done, and you get to come back and watch wrestling, and you can be a big supporter, which is obviously what we need. We need fans. We need all that jazz, right?
Sure.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah. If we could just increase the viewer base by continuing to allow people to enjoy the sport, we'd be in a much better place. Dude, can I tell you that, like, again, you and I are the same age.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up, and out of my high school wrestling team, I'm not saying that, like, you have to be a psychopath like me and make this your whole life. That's not what I'm saying.
You could say us. It's okay.
Yeah, but
I'm with you.
Like, you don't have to be a psychopath like me and you to make this your entire life. But I don't know one of them that watches the World Championships. No. I don't know one of them. That's not good, dude. That's not good.
It's not good. I agree.
Because I grew up with some pretty darn good wrestlers, right? State place winners, NCAA qualifiers. These are good wrestlers. They don't give a shit, Zach. A lot of them have a negative, just a bad taste in their mouth from the sport over years of what could probably be called abuse.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Or trauma. You could probably, I mean, let's call it really what it is. And so are we doing a better job, A, and B, if we could obviously do better. How do we do a better job?
Right. So I think P&L is the better job right now. I think P&L is that's literally what we're trying to track down, because who was I talking to the other day? I said, it's the first time in the last 10 years I've ever been a part of a weigh-in, not at P&L, but at like U17s and U20s, where kids were walking out and you didn't see the first thing they were doing was chowing down on food or drinking several drinks all at once. 1997 was my first year in college, which is the first year we lost those wrestlers.
Yeah.
I remember the rule change. It's taken that long, right? It takes that long. I mean, it's crazy to think that's 25 years ago when we lost those 3 wrestlers in 1 year. Okay.
Yeah.
But this was
within 5 weeks of one another, by the way.
Well, yes,
Joe,
absolutely.
did you know that 3 kids passed away in a 5-week period in 1997? All of them, and I'm going to say I'm going to say the words weight cutting, but the truth of the matter is, it was really from doing it really poorly and also taking creatine at the same time. So just so we're all on the same page, like, absolutely. Dude, and then that's what spurred the NCAA to have what I thought was a knee-jerk reaction. They added 7 pounds to each weight class, and they instituted the weight certification process, which at the time was bullshit. It was so bad. Dude, it was so bad. I cheated every single time.
We cheated every single time.
For sure.
Well, I'll tell you right now, that's part of the reason why I got out of folk style, because USA Wrestling at the time, and I'm not knocking USA Wrestling because nothing had changed yet. There was no good science. It was still day before weigh-ins, and it was the way I knew how to we weight.
Yeah.
That's what I knew. That's what I do. Yeah. So that's what I went with. I'm like, I'm going to be better here because I'm better at it. Obviously, now we're smarter. We have science. We have data. We have all the things that go along with it.
Sure.
But that's a thing that took 25 years to get right. I watched everybody. I watched all my kids come out. I watched everybody come out. I'm like, man, nobody's like, barely making it, drinking like 36 drinks at one time, or chowing. They're all understanding I'm better because I'm doing it right. Right. And I think that I'm going to get on I'm going to get on a little bit of horse here. Many years ago in our states, and I'm probably going to get yelled at for this, the state chairman took a lot of power from our best coaches, and our best coaches got put by the wayside, and rules put in place, with high schools, the way things are done now. And I don't mean that because they're doing wrong, but, coaches aren't allowed to have contact with their kids during high school season if they're a high school coach, right? College coaches have all sorts of independent rules that they're up against, right? And the NCAA watches them. But because of that, okay, the Brandon Paulsons, the Ben Askrens, the Izzy Martinez's, the Jody Strittmatters, the Eric Larkins, we have found new paths to take our kids long term and be a part of their growth. And that's what I think is what's best about PNL is we're now taking a 8-year-old, showing him all the things that we know, which is to be correct, which, we can always learn. There's probably more correct things out there, but I don't think we're too far from neutral that we aren't doing it.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
That we're not doing a good job for these kids, because I really don't see anybody losing a kid because we did it wrong. If we lose a kid,
for a long time, that was the case.
That was the case. Yep. And that's why we lost that power as coaches to the hierarchies of high school rules, state cheerleaders, NCAA took those like, hey, these coaches are too much, man. They're doing too much. But we got better because of that. And now our original 8 plus the other 10, I think we're up to 20 or 22. I can't remember the number, Mike. I'm sorry. That are now in PNL are all proponents of the time changes, of the time with the changes of coaches losing power, wrestlers doing things cutting weight. I hate that word. That did bad things happen, and becoming and moving out of a scenario where we are going, we know better. There's not a coach. There isn't a coach in this group that doesn't understand where we come from and how we want to teach kids. Right.
Yeah, everyone's on the same page, right?
Everybody's on the same page, right? And so we're all moving the same direction. That's what I think is special about PNL. That's what I think that's what makes us better coaches. I even use Dave. For instance, I use David in my argument. Like David Taylor, he's amazing, but was he going to be amazing, or did he need to win a national title at 88 pounds? There's a big fight this year in USA Wrestling about losing weight classes. I said no, we cannot lose weight classes. This is David Taylor, Kyler Dake, you name it. Everyone wanted 88, 94. They all won it because it was a pathway, right? It gave them a boost.
So they're talking about pulling out like the 88-pound weight class from Fargo or from
Yep. So they're not doing that. So quickly, I will tell you, I'm the Greco-Roman Sports Committee chair. I'm the chairman of the Coaches Council. I sit on the executive board. I also sit on the board of directors.
For USA Wrestling, by the way.
For USA Wrestling, yes. Yeah. So and so I'm privy to every and on the JOWC. So our rules committee. So I'm privy to every conversation, right? But that's why I'm so passionate about this group of PNL coaches, is because we all had to go through the worst times, in my opinion, of wrestling in freestyle Greco. Sure. Oh man, do you remember we did period wrestling and then we did ball grab? Yeah, we all came through that. Every one of us came through that time.
It's the worst.
It was the worst.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. Yo, look,
so bad.
Zach, look, I'll be completely honest with you. Joel, you might be a little too young to.
I took part in that.
Oh, you
that
wrattled
like, right?
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look. I gotta be honest with you. I block it out. Actively, like my brain, like if you bring it up, I'm like, oh, like a scalded dog, dude. I can remember. It was awful. It was awful.
So bad.
But like you're saying though, like Joel Shaw is not our age, 30 something, right? And now all of a sudden we got guys that wrestled in it going, we can't go back to that. We can't go back to that. It was terrible.
Yep.
You know, it was so bad. It was so
And I'll
bad for
tell
the sport.
And I'll tell you right now, I think the NCAA is going through that same dark times right now. They're
Do
trying
you?
to do. Oh, I do. I do.
Mm.
They're creating rules just to create rules.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
All they have to do is mimic, and they would win.
Yeah.
A little bit of mimicry, not all of it. I get there's got to be some differences, but now
I don't
they're
think,
creating.
dude. Well, here's the truth of the matter. Like everyone that we've had on this, I mean, has there been one person that we've talked to, Joel? Joel, we're creeping on 50 episodes, right? Like, yo, not one of them was like, yeah, folk style is the way. Well, no, it's obviously not, because they're making folk style like freestyle.
Yep.
Like, what are we talking about?
None of our guests say that, but the comments in our Instagram, there is a ardent supporters of folk style.
Oh, you're right.
No, and I tell you what, and there will always be that, and it all lies on one side of the United States. It does not lie everywhere. I will be willing to bet that 90% of your comments are from the East Coast if it's folk style related. And that's me being.
That's interesting. We should take a look at that. We should take a look. I don't know how we would gather that data other than just like creeping on their pages.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
where
and
you
even
from?
that is like, you know, yeah, that's
We
interesting.
can just ask them, where are you from? We don't need to creep on their Instagram pages.
Oh no, that would take being in any way social, and I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna talk to humans.
Nope.
All right, that's interesting. Okay, so why? Why do you think people on the East Coast, in Pennsylvania, in New York, New Jersey, you're right. You're 100% right.
Because they don't even like track wrestling. They created their own system to keep wrestling to themselves. They have their own tournament software. They have their own everything. That's it. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit mean right now, and I don't want anybody to be mad at me. Pennsylvania, for a multitude of years, won every cadet freestyle national team championship at Fargo. I think it was like 6 or 7 years in a row, right? Why aren't they winning juniors then? I don't understand. Why are they winning juniors? How are they not winning juniors if they're winning cadets? Oh, well, there's a multitude of reasons, but I'm telling you right now, they get their jobs done. They do their work, which I think is fair, but they're also still not continuing down that path because there are so many college programs on the East Coast, because that's a huge population base. So like, well, I won a national title. Now I'm recruitable. And that's what they're doing. They're on All-American. Now I'm recruitable. We're here in the Midwest, or let's just say west of Ohio. It's a different world. Like it really is, right? We're trying to go get medals at Super 32. We're going to the East Coast to sneak in a medal, right? We're wrestling in Fargo. We're trying to make a world team. Our club scenarios are so different than those on the East Coast, right? Name one club, Mike, if you can, that has kids that wrestle year round. Over 100 kids wrestle year round for one club.
Oh, for one in New Jersey?
Yeah.
Oh no,
Yeah.
on the East Coast, no, that doesn't exist.
Why not? Why can't it?
Because there are. If you're asking me honestly, why can't it happen? It can. It does. I mean, it does.
Sure.
It does. I guess.
Are you sure? Sure?
No, I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're right. But here's the thing about it, right? Like, it's also proximity, right? So the nice part about the culture of wrestling clubs on the East Coast is that the population density supports the amount of wrestling clubs that there are, and some of them specialize in Greco, and so like Ciampa,
sure.
like Ciampa is like if you're anything in the state of New Jersey as far as Greco goes, if this is a path that you truly believe you have to go to see Matt Ciampa for sure, right? But that said, that it takes away from the one voice. For sure it does. It takes away from the one voice. So I think that there are drawbacks, obviously, to both decisions or both ideologies, but I think that there's some benefit as well.
I think there's always benefit in knowing who your neighbor is.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
But it's still going to be one coach when you go to the World Championships. It's always going to be a coach you're going to bring with you to the Olympics, right? Not saying that the Midwest or West Coast has better coaches. I'm not saying that by any means, because obviously East Coast is amazing at wrestling. What I am saying though is If a kid shows up, any kid shows up, well, let me go backwards here. If I'm going to go, let's just make this, I know it sounds ludicrous to say this, but if I'm going to go to war, I want the guy that's been with me for 5 years versus the guy that just showed up, said he was a specialist, and I can win you something, right?
No question.
Right. And that to me is where that's maybe a Midwest thing. That's me being who I am, and it's not me questioning the East Coast, right? Because I tell you, at P&L, we struggle trying to find those East Coast guys for our teams. We can't. We want more, and we can't find year-round guys. We can't find year-round staffs. We just can't. I mean, right now we have nobody from New Jersey. How many great wrestlers are from New Jersey, right?
How many great wrestling clubs?
Right? Yeah.
Right? Like,
but yeah,
clubs.
right. Maryland. We're struggling in New York, but we finally got a couple there. We have none from Ohio. Not one club from Ohio.
Well, I think that has more, and Jared actually brought that up. He was upset about it as well. But that is a folk style centric state.
It is.
And they do. But all right, what would you say to the high school or club wrestling coach from the state of Ohio? What data would you point them towards to sell them on the success that international styles can bring to you?
I don't think I would have to sell them. I would just point out. Actually, you're right. It would have to be a sell. You're correct. I apologize. Here's what I would say. So what's the and I know, so this is me being very, very ignorant, but I know there's a high school in Ohio that's had an NCAA All-American every year for like the last one. Eds, thank you. St. Ed's. St. Ed's, right? Right. So and that was Joe Heskett's club.
Yeah.
I grew up wrestling Joe. I got my butt kicked by him several times. Not a problem. He's like, hey, he beat me in the Big 12 semifinals. I was like, you're awesome. So yeah. All good. What I am saying though is, if you looked at Ohio's from St. Ed's, who they would revere as their best wrestlers, all of them probably will have a world or an Olympic berth. And they're going to say that first, not how many times were you NCAA champ, or that, right? They're going to go with, oh, this guy was a world medal team winner or world medalist or a world team member. They're going to run with that first, but yet they're not doing anything to promote that. Right. But that's what they're going to run with first.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows when you're the world champ, you're the world champ.
Right.
When you're the Olympic champ, you're the Olympic champ. And you know what? One of my favorite things that just happened the other day, a little bit off topic, but that sprinter that just won the 100, the 200, and the 400 by 1 relay or 4 by 1 relay said, I love the basketball, but they're not world champs. Their hats say world champs. Who are they the world champs of? It's basketball. It's all the United States. He goes, I'm a world champ. He goes, I'm competing against the world. So that everybody recognizes what really, in my opinion,
what the pinnacle is.
What the pinnacle is.
Right.
Yep. But they're not doing anything to get to that pinnacle.
Joe, you're probably closer to this argument than I am, right? I don't have to sell anyone in Southern California about freestyle and Greco. Look, John Myers has, like, when I walked into this place, he goes, we hang our hat on Fargo. Like, we bring more kids from Poway High School to Fargo than some states. Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to ask, Joel, is how do you do that? How do you sell freestyle and Greco to your kids and parents?
I think it depends on where the kid's at in their development. This past year, we had kids that had been doing folk style their whole life and were a little bit hesitant to want to kind of do freestyle in general. And we kind of pointed to, hey, like, look at all of these college coaches are saying that this is what they're looking for. So for the kids that, had experience wrestling, but not necessarily a ton of experience on the freestyle and Greco circuit, it was, hey, like, this is part of your next step of moving on to, you know, continuing your development. And
Was
then
there pushback from
side,
parents on that? Was there pushback from parents on that? Because the kids, I get it. They don't want to lose. Let's call it exactly what it is. They don't want to lose, right?
Yep.
But was there pushback from parents?
I think there was initially pushback. I don't know if the pushback came from the kid or from the parent first, but basically it was kind of I don't know, should we be doing this? Like, is this going to be helpful for everything else that we do? Which was more of kind of a parent ask. And
Sure.
I think there's also, you know, from that one side of it, it was the same thing. Like you said, they don't want to lose. The parent doesn't want to see their kid lose because they've did all this work to get to being semi-successful.
Backwards, man. We got this shit backwards.
Okay,
I want my
but on the other
kid
hand,
to lose. I'm the first one to tell you, I want my kid to lose ASAP.
My job is to make your kid lose. I told my parents that several times. That's my job.
Mhm.
But Joel, I'm going to go. I do this a lot, so I love your perspective. Is this going to help, right? Why did we learn multiple types of different math? Why do we learn geometry? Why do we learn algebra? Was it going to help? Doesn't matter. We have to learn it, right? The school system says we have to. Why do we have to learn English? Why do we learn a separate language? Why do we learn the difference in history? Why do we do all those things? It doesn't really matter. Its school system says we have to, because that's how you go to college. And if you don't go to college, so be it. You have a different path. I got lots of friends that are union people, that are ditch diggers, and they make a great living. And I'm not knocking any of that. But my point is,
if you want your kid to go to college, you got to learn that.
You got to learn. You got to learn, right? And that's probably my easiest argument. That's always my easiest argument. Why do we have to do it in school? Well, because we have to. Same here, because we have to.
Zac, I'm curious to get your input. You know, I think lots of times everybody gives the argument, we got to wrestle freestyle all the time. You know, it's valuable for X, Y, Z reasons. What would your argument be to why Greco is important to the development of a folk style wrestler?
Oh, you sure you want to go down that path? I mean that in a good way. I appreciate this. So I actually really had this last year. I've had a kid that came to my room. His name's Cade Ziola, and the kid is going to be a heavyweight, maybe 197. I'm not sure what weight he'll go. But I said to him, I go, Cade, how come you don't know how to tie up? Oh, because the first thing he said was, because that's Greco and we don't do that. And I go, do you skip leg day at the gym? He goes, no. Why not? Because who likes leg day? Leg day is the worst. He's like, that's fair. So, and essentially, what I think the greatest teaching that Greco can give to a good folk styler, a great folk styler, and a great freestyler is teaching you how to be comfortable in uncomfortable positions. Now, you're not always going to be a Grecoer. You're not going to be a thrower. You might not be that guy that's patient enough to wait for one position in a whole 6 minutes, because that obviously doesn't happen in freestyle or folk style. There's lots of things that can happen in those matches, right? And that's why it's more watched here in the United States. I would make the argument that in Europe and anywhere else in the world, Greco is actually the bigger sport, but that's not our problem.
That's not true. I will come to Omaha and fight you. It's not true.
We will fight each other. Well, we'll see each other in Chicago. We'll have the same argument. And it is more popular. More countries do it.
No, it's not. That's not true.
How much you want to bet?
I've seen it. I've seen it
too.
Stop. Go ahead.
The brackets are bigger. Hey, let's just put it this way. Are the brackets bigger in Greco?
No, not in most of the countries, with the exception of Scandinavian countries, because they don't wrestle freestyle.
It doesn't matter. Are they bigger or not? You can't say with the exception.
Oh, yes, I can, because they don't have a freestyle bracket.
Oh, so they can always go create it. You know what, Scandinavia? I remember. Hey, listen, I can tell you this. You'll laugh at me. You'll laugh at this. Listen, and we will agree to see each other in Chicago, because this could go on forever. But my point is, when I was in, when we were at Worlds in Oslo in 2021, okay, obviously very Scandinavian, very awesome, had a great time. Those Scandinavians yelled at America, hey, how come you guys can't beat Russia? I go, what do you mean? He goes, obviously you guys have the money, you have the talent, you have the people, but you don't want to be better at Greco. They were upset with our country because we couldn't beat Russia in general.
Yeah.
But was their argument wrong? Do we have more money? We have more presence.
It's not
we
wrong.
have more. Okay, but my point is everybody expects us to be better. Okay. Okay. So going back to your question, Greco presents comfortability in uncomfortable scenarios for freestyle and folk style. I believe that whatever tie up you're in, if you're, I don't want to call you a psychopath because then you'd be a Greco wrestler, but I'm going to call you, what's the word I want to use? Slightly, if you're slightly dangerous, okay, and you can by accident throw a headlock when that guy didn't expect it. That's what Greco can do for you. Okay, when you can
listen.
Right.
I don't want. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off.
It's okay.
But just so we're clear, everything that you have said just about the position, I cannot agree with you more.
Fair.
I think that it is
fair.
a ask Brent Metcalf, ask Darian Caldwell.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, Darian did grow up in that, like Coach Stuber is a Greco guy. 100%.
Yep, I know. I know Coach Stuber. Yeah.
So 100%, he had the skill set when he got into the NCAA finals. By the way, he wasn't a headlock guy. Like Darian Caldwell was a defensive scrambler. He was kind of funky. People think that like, oh, he's a headlock. No. Nope. The opportunity presented itself, and he headlocked the shit out of Brent Metcalf and won national title doing it. So
absolutely,
I could not agree with you more. It is a very valuable skill set.
Right, and it's a protective skill set. Let's call it that. It's a protective skill set, right? I'm not saying you're going to be a Greco wrestler, Joel. I'm not going to make you go wrestle Greco because it's going to make you the greatest wrestler ever. But what I am going to do is I'm going to give you a protective skill set that allows you to be in positions that says that normally where that freestyler or folk styler feels like this is a for sure finish, doesn't understand that he hasn't seen what you can do, right? That's what I'm saying, right? So it gives you that special skill set to protect yourself longer in a match, right? Versus just going, well, he's got my leg. I've exhausted every little thing I thought I could do. Okay, I'm just going to give up two. I'm going to work on getting off the bottom, right? That's what Greco can do for that really. And by no means, I love freestyle and I love folk style. So I had a wrestler named Antrell Taylor. That boy is an amazing freestyler, but the way he wrestles, he understands his positions on his feet in Greco, which allows him. Now, obviously, Myro Shapiro is an amazing wrestler. He hasn't quite gotten through that nonsense yet. When I say nonsense, I'm just jealous of Myro.
The nonsense. Yeah. No. The nonsense that Meyer can throw at you.
Yeah. I'm just jealous. So, but at least Antrell could get himself there,
right,
with his skill sets, and then hopefully move forward because he's still got one more year of U20s. He's still got one more year. I don't know if Myro does either, but I hope he does.
He
it.
does.
Oh, damn it!
He does.
Damn it!
Hey, he was in Budapest with us, wasn't he? Yeah, he won in Budapest. So he's
he did. Yep, you're right.
So he's got one more.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go 7 for 7 here. Let's go some quick questions.
One second before you jump in there, I think it's kind of cool to point out that at a time when cross training has never been more popular and people are swinging jackhammers and flipping tires to get in shape, like at the very least, you can look at Greco as your cross training for wrestling while wrestling.
Perfect. Love it. Love it.
How many of your guys swing jackhammers? I think you mean sledgehammers.
Sledgehammers, but those two.
Hey,
it's a tough call.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would love to see that video if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. Let's favorite wrestling shoe of all time.
1997, 98, 99, A6 Ultralight, the blue and orange one.
I have a kid in my room that has a pair of those on.
Oh, I will find him. Bring him to the tournament so I can steal him from him, okay?
Yep. Okay. Best form of cardio for wrestling that is not wrestling.
400-meter sprints.
Really, quarter-mile sprints.
Yep. I do them. My boys do them every day. I have seniors that wrestle for me. We do them every day.
Oh, how many?
Yeah. Usually it's 4x4, but like today, and honestly, yesterday, it was 4x8. So we had 8 of them.
Oh, 2 miles of sprinting.
Yep.
Oh.
And they had whatever their time was in running the sprint. So if they did it in a minute 15, they would have double that for recovery, and then they do it again.
Yeah. Okay. Best form, or no, excuse me. Let's see. Would you rather be strong or flexible? Is it more valuable in our sport to be strong or to be flexible?
So I believe flexibility is strength. So I will go with flexibility.
Oh, okay. So strength through a longer range of motion. That makes sense to me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. When it comes to folk style, freestyle, leg attack stuff, do you prefer to watch like a funkier wrestler, scrambling wrestler, or a baseline D wrestler?
Oh, are we talking about? So we're talking about the defense, right? Not talking about offense.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
there's something to be said for like just brick it up, hips, head, hips, defense.
Yep.
But then scrambling is a lot of fun too.
Yeah. You know what? I think I could go scrambling. I really do. I like watching them. Those guys are amazing. Their thought process is super cool.
Yeah, watching their brain unfold on the mat is pretty interesting. I agree with you there. Okay. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about the sport of wrestling, what would it be?
Well, I would love more fans.
Yeah.
I think our sport of wrestling is absolutely second to none. But if I could get everybody to understand how I feel, or how you feel, or Joel, how you feel about our sport, that's what I would wave my wand at.
That's great.
I would, because to me, there's no better sport than what we're involved in.
Yeah, I
None,
agree with you.
None whatsoever.
Okay, last one. Who's on the Rushmore of wrestling?
From just in general, like, are we talking world or just United States?
Well, it is a United States thing. We get that all the time.
I know, right? Okay. Dan Gable, Bruce Baumgartner, Rulon Gardner. Is there 4 or 5 up there? I can't remember. 4 or 5?
There's 4. 4.
4. Okay. And my last one, Cale Sanderson, only because we're the same age.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that, with Cale being on there now, right? Because like you put Coach Gable on there because of the body of work in every sector, right? Like as a wrestler, he won the big one. As a coach, he developed tremendous amount of athletes and won national titles along the way. And then like as the mentor and as like the I guess the grandfather of wrestling, he's just done incredible things. And Cale is moving in that direction pretty darn quickly.
Yeah, no, and I threw Rulon because he did beat the one guy, but now there's Mihan, but he did beat the one guy that is was considered unbeatable in Greco and was a 2-time Olympic medalist. And then Bruce, 10-time world and Olympic medalist.
It's pretty impressive.
It's for me, and I spend a lot of time with Bruce because we talk a lot via USA Wrestling. So he's got my utmost respect.
Yeah, pretty
Rulon
incredible.
Also has among the best shoe that's ever existed as well.
That's true.
Facts.
So there's
that's
true.
true.
Two-way. Yeah, we just combined questions. All right. Zac Dominguez, please, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Secondly, can you tell people how to get a hold of you? Maybe they have some questions for you. Maybe they're trying to develop athletes. Maybe they're trying to run a club. Maybe they need to get a hold of you. How do they do that?
Yep. So on Instagram, I'm known as Frecology, FRECOLOGY. You can search me there. Twitter is Dominguez Zac. Facebook is Zac Dominguez. And really, I'm available on all the platforms.
Dude, your cell phone number is on your website, bro. You are brave man.
Believe
You're
me,
a brave man.
Yeah, and I will put it out there too. I don't mind. Well,
Hmm.
in my real life, I'll tell you what, Mike. In my real life, I do insurance for a living.
Mhm.
Wrestling is just what I do. Yep, it's what I do, and I love doing it, man. I love doing it.
You're a brave man, Zac Dominguez. I ain't putting my cell phone number out there. These people are crazy.
I know.
Crazy.
You texted me. I was like, oh my god, I got Mike's number. Yes.
All right, man. Thank you so much, Zac. I appreciate you coming on and sharing some wisdom with us.
I absolutely appreciate your time. Thank you, guys. I mean that. I had a blast. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.